Hey, folks, welcome to InTheMoneyStocks.com's intraday analysis video, brought to you by the creators of proprietary price, pattern, and time methodology. Learn the PPT strategies and profit for life. Let's get started today on this Tuesday, November 4th, 2014. Markets are down across the board, although have recovered sharply off of their earlier losses. And again, if you look at yesterday's high pivot right here, this is where oil began to slide. And again, you're looking at the S&P 500 SPY ETF. But again, oil began to slide here and bottomed out here. Then we saw a little bit of a bounce in oil, and the markets were able to bounce up as well. So markets right now are really trying to follow oil. And again, interestingly enough, as you see this little bit of a downtick, oil has sold back off. Let me just show you the USO here. See this red candle on the USO back down, and it's bringing the markets in just a little bit. So again, just to note that, again, notice here, this is the USO now, so this is the oil ETF that tracks oil. Oil topped out here just as the markets topped out yesterday. It slid all the way down, bottomed out here. As oil bounced, the markets bounced today and are now pulling back just a little bit as oil's pulling back. So again, that's really what you guys need to know in terms of following this market right now. And again, if something else globally occurs, then I think you'll have some other factor driving the market as well. But right now, oil is all that matters. Literally all that matters, folks. I mean, that's it. So again, going back to the SPY here, if we bring that chart up, a little bit of a pullback as oil is pulling back. The markets, again, have recovered. I think the markets are being held generally in check aside from oil because of the elections. Everyone's just watching to see who takes the House, who takes the Senate. Obviously, the Republicans are going to keep the House. The question is, do they take the Senate? Will that have an impact on the markets? I think it's mostly been factored in. The Republicans taking over means more things might be able to be done with both houses under the control of the Republicans. I think for the most part, again, the markets have rallied in recent weeks up on that perception. So I don't really expect too much difference there. Okay, so that's what we're seeing there, folks. And again, a couple little side notes. The IBB continues to be weak. I alerted you guys to the reversal on Friday via the IBB. This thing gapped up and reversed. That was a sell signal, and so far the IBB continues to trade down another $3 today. And again, nice job for those of us that are holding the IBB. JPM had news yesterday that they're going to be spending more on legal proceedings, on some criminal probes and such, and that stock, again, has rallied off the lows, but still down 95 cents on the day. And again, nice pullback there. But look at where this thing was. Here was your gap fill, and you basically kissed gap fill right there on JP Morgan Chase before getting this big bounce as the markets bounced up as well. Couple little things to go over here aside from that. Transports are the one area that you're seeing strength today. The IYT may be putting in a little bit of a top today, but with oil going down, the transportation index is definitely doing well. And if I flip to the daily chart here, take a look at this. But the reason why I say it may be a top is because take a look at this trend line. Connect the recent highs and look at what you get. Pivot high to pivot high to pivot high. Look at the fall this thing had off of this last line. So in theory, you should see at least a pullback, I would say, to the 149, 148 level right down here, 20 MA-ish, 150-ish area on the IYT. So again, I'm looking for a pullback on this in the coming days. Again, that's the transportation index. Oil dropping has been really good for it. As you can see, it's made new all-time highs. But any sort of bounce in oil would be a negative, plus the fact that it's hitting a trend line also makes me believe that oil could be getting ready for a bouncing opportunity. Oil stocks are getting absolutely annihilated today, guys. Take a look at SDRL. Already down from a recent high in June to July of $40 to $20. It's a 50% decline in the stock price. Take a look at today's action, down 7.5%. Also, other big names like RIG, Transocean, down 4%. Halliburton, HAL, down 5.5%. I mean, these are just whopping sell-side action. Even Chevron's down 1.6%. But Chevron at least had this big rally on their good earnings. But again, it is pulling back into the 20-moving average. So again, oil's dragging down the market, plus it's dragging down any oil stock exponentially more than the market because of the pressure on that. Now, we are seeing some interesting price action. Gold recently has been getting hammered, but really over the last few days, you've seen a stabilization in oil prices, in gold prices, and I'm curious to see basically what I'm looking for here, and I'm going to show you guys a little bit of a level here. See this high from this gap down right here? See how the last 2 days we've kind of bumped up underneath it? If in the next day or so you can get above it on a closing daily basis, meaning at the end of the day you close above it, look for this to quickly go up and go back to this pivot point and this gap fill right around the 115 level. All right, so you'd get about a $2.50 move or a little bit more out of the GLD if and only if it can close above this little pivot line right there. So watch that very carefully. Silver, same kind of thing. Silver's down a little bit today, but it's still kind of just going sideways off of this little reversal it had. I actually still like silver. My thought process is this, is that demand, if the global picture is not doing too poorly, which people say, I mean, that's one of the reasons why the stock market's still holding up relatively well, even though oil's collapsing, is because people are saying that oil's drop is a supply issue. There's so much supply from the U.S., from Saudi Arabia dropping their prices, that's the culprit. Now, if it's a demand issue, then that's a different story. But if it's truly what they're saying about oil, then silver should do very, very well, as it's an industrial metal. So I'm actually more so bullish long-term on silver here, while I still think gold might have a little bit more downside in it down the line. Short-term, I still think gold could bounce up to 115 or so, but again, down the line, months away, you're looking at gold going even lower, in my opinion. Okay, other charts out there that are seeing some weakness. You saw Apple selling off sharply earlier today, but it has rebounded. And again, take a look at the bounces on these stocks. I mean, really amazing. A lot of volatility in the markets as markets, again, kind of try to bounce back and negate a lot of their early downside here. All right, markets still have that buy the dip mentality in them. By the way, one concerning thing, I want to just throw this out. Macau gaming revenue, all-time lows. All-time lows. Worst gaming revenue ever in Macau. Why is that a concern? Well, if China is, we all know that the Chinese love to gamble, right? They love to gamble. If that's the case, that's got to be speaking. I think that's one of the truest indicators about Chinese economic growth that you could have out there. I mean, the numbers from the government and stuff, often people don't believe them. They're fudged by the government, just like a lot of people think the numbers here sometimes are fudged as well. But I think more so over there as the government controls more and more of everything. So the question is that economic revenue that these casinos are reporting, is that a true picture, because it's not going through the government versus coming directly through these companies? So if that's the case, that actually could be a big, big thing that down the line, maybe not right away, but down the line, shows that China's in for a very hard landing, and we'll see again how it plays out, but definitely pretty wacky there going on. Oil's getting a little bit of a bounce back up here, so that's going to help the markets. And again, notice this little bounce back here. So if we take a look at the SPY, you're going to see a little bit of a bounce up, and again, starting to see a little bit of a bounce. This is actually a small bullish consolidation pattern beginning to form as well on the SPY. Couple charts out there that I like. Freeport-McMoRan, intraday is not looking too healthy, but overall, if you go to the daily chart, one of the reasons why I like this one, you had a bottoming tail here. You didn't close below it here, even though you got below it today. It doesn't look like you'll close below it unless we see some sharp selling. Therefore, short term, I would think that this is due for a bounce on FCX, Freeport-McMoRan. By the way, Freeport-McMoRan's gold, but it's also copper. Copper's actually held up relatively well. If we look at the JJC, you can see it hasn't broken the recent lows, and if you zoom out, it's actually above. I mean, it's in this range still. And hasn't broken down. So Freeport-McMoRan, to me, could be a little bit of a better play than some of the gold stocks out there, just because it's kind of both of those plays. All right. Let's see what else we have on tap here, guys. Looks like Alcoa's down a little bit today, just like the metals are. If you look at U.S. Steel getting hammered today, and again, anything commodity-related is under some pressure today, although, again, the gold stocks seem to be holding up a little bit better. Looking at oil again, let's just do one final check on oil. Oil again chopping around here. Looks like it's pulling back just a little bit again off of that initial pop. Doesn't look to me to be anything of interest. The only thing that would get my attention on the USO and really make me believe that the bounce could already be starting is if we put in a bottoming tail today, and we'd have to rally almost to the highs of the day for that. We'd probably have to rally to about 29.20 to 29.25 to put that bottoming tail in place today. All right. Again, look at the IBB. Looks like it's continuing to show some major weakness. And again, still down about $3 and change. I love this top that was put in. Anytime you see a move up of 20+% on an ETF and then a gap up and a reversal, that's telling you this thing's going down. Target on this is going to be the 278 level. 279, 278, moving averages, pivot highs. That's your target. This should go there in about 2 weeks or less. All right, guys. Have a great afternoon. As always, thank you for being watchers of this video. Come join us at InTheMoneyStocks.com, and I look forward to seeing you and helping you make money. Take